Greetings to everyone. Myself, Atharva Jadhav. I am a student of Masters in Construction Engineering and Management in SEPT University. In this video, I'll be presenting my portfolio of Studio 3 work, which is integrated construction practices in front of you all. Starting with the project brief, myself, Atharva. I was the BIM coordinator and firefighting consultant in this semester. The work done as a BIM coordinator and the firefighting consultant is to prepare a BIM execution plan, the preparation of LOD versus LOD documentation of work processes, coordination with the stakeholders, and solving their queries and issues faced by them. Conducting frequent meetings, doing clash detection, coordination, generating MOM RFIs, and prepare a firefighting model. Now, starting with the project brief, the project is located at the ISKCON Only Road in Ahmedabad, which is a 20-story residential building. The project cost is around 135 crore. The project duration is of 62 months, and the total built-up area is 46,277 square meters. On the right-hand side, there is an existing site layout which includes a tower crane barricades at the periphery, steel yard at the entrance, contractor and all offices on the ground floor, labor colony at the backside, and the bush link is kept near the labor colony for the easy access to workers. The scope of work selected for the model preparation is of 14th and 15th floor, and for progress tracking, 17th and 18th floor is sea level. At the below, there is a image showing the status of accessory work going on in the 18th floor, pole 2 as on 31st October 2023. The overall objective of the studio is to implementation of BIM on the project by using a technology and a collaborative approach to make the construction process smooth. Coming to the BIM execution planning, first for the BIM execution plan, the process which we followed is first identified the BIM goals and uses as per employment information requirement, then formulating a BP process, then afterward developing a platform for information exchange, and afterwards defining the supporting infrastructure from BIM implementation. The technology which was used during the whole semester were Google Drive and Microsoft Office for exchange of files, Autodesk and Revit for the model preparation, Naviswork and Synchro for 4D and 5D simulation, Visilean for progress tracking, and Google Meet for the conducting meetings online. The types of meeting which we conducted throughout the semester are first is the kickoff meeting, which was conducted with the client to understand their requirements, then meeting for deciding on roles, which was done among all four of us for the deciding the roles, then BIM execution plan meeting in which all the process were finalized. Then design coordination meeting was done frequently to understand the progress. Then tracking and construction progress review meetings were done with the clients among other stakeholders. And after the preparation of the model, the clash coordination meeting was conducted with the uh, individual consultants. Client expectation from the BIM implementation were to first to visualize the building in 3D, then complicated structural designs, thus getting the accurate visualization of components, and optimizing the slab cycle time considering the inventory of shuttering components, then progress tracking of the project, and achieving precise quantities using BIM. The quality checks which were performed after the preparation of model were standard checks, which includes the nomenclature, file type, modern template, and standard. Then afterwards, the visual checks were there, which was done in Revit itself, in which the grid and level and modeling elements were linked properly or not were checked. Then interference checks was done as a clash identification in Naviswork. Coming to the LOD versus LOS, first we define the model element authority, like what elements are there in every model were identified, then preparation, then LOD and MEA were done, like all the elements, like in what level we are supposed to build. So, for example, in masonry wall, so LOD 300 to be done or LOD 400 to be done, that was identified. Then afterwards, the preparation of design schedule was done. Then, based on that, the design schedule was tracked for the uh, 10 weeks, and afterwards, the LOD versus LOS comparison was done. In the below figures, we can see that in LOD 300 structure, only column beam and slab is done, in which we can only see the length and shape of the column. While in LOD 400 structural model, we can see the detailing which is done by the structural consultant. In similarly, in architecture model, we can see only walls, but in LOD 400 architecture model, the walls, windows, and railings all are visible. After the preparation of models, the models are appended in Naviswork, then clash detection is run and report is generated. Based on the report, the clash coordination call is conducted, and on that call, it is discussed whether it is a modeling error or a design error. If it is a modeling error, the designer, the modelers will rectify it, and if it is a design error, the RFI is generated on the site. The issue is raised to the site. The site personnel will give the suggestions. Then accordingly, the rectification will be done by the members, and thus the clash resolution process will be done. In the clash matrix, we can see that major clashes are between the structural and versus electrical elements, and between structural and plumbing elements. In structural and plumbing elements, the major clashes are there because the structural consultant has not provided the sleeves. So because of that, the clashes are high. In which also we can see that one design error was identified, in which the pipe was clashing with the RCC beam. So this error is occurred due to, as we can see, here, there is a beam in structural 2D drawing, but in plumbing 2D drawing, there is not any beam given. So this error is occurred because the plumbing 2D drawings were prepared based on the architectural drawing, and thus there is a clash between the structure and plumbing drawing. So this is a perfect example of less coordination among the stakeholders. If they have followed the BIM implementation from starting, this problem would have not occurred in late in execution stage. Due to the clash resolution and quantification part, in this design error, there is a variation in the dimension between the architectural and structural drawing of 15 mm. So due to that, the rework cost was identified, in which the equipment cost, labor cost, material cost, and inspection cost was taken into the consideration. In which we can see the labor cost is the maximum of 193 rupees, and afterwards the equipment cost of 63 rupees. So the cost for the rework of one beam comes to 300 rupees. Overall, there are 14 beams. So the total rework cost comes around 4,206 rupees. The solution suggested by the contractor is to shift the ball a bit, as there is only facade element which will not take any load. And on the right hand side, we can see the clash grouping and assignment. In this manner, the clashes were grouped, and it was assigned to a responsible person, in which we can see the graph below. On 8th of 8th date, there were 29 clashing, and afterwards, when I did the second clash detection test, the clashes were reduced. So for example, we have kept the clash grouping and assignment uh, format over here. Coming to the last planning system, first the milestone schedule, phase schedule, and look ahead plan was prepared. Based on the look ahead plan, every week the weekly work plan was prepared, and the weekly work plan was tracked and input by doing the constraint. The model development was done for 10 weeks, and on-site implementation of LPS was done for 3 weeks. On the right-hand side, we can see the progress tracking was done on Visilean. Its LPS tracking website is shown over here, in which we can see all of the activities mostly were get completed in the given time, but only a reinforcement activity of core 1, part 1 beam reinforcement and slab reinforcement were not completed due to the unavailability of slab reinforcement details, due to which the forecasting is not planned in the following week. This activity is planned next week, as due to the unavailability of the reinforcement manpower as the Diwali festive was approaching near. So for insurance, we can say that the commitment of shuttering agency was indirectly affected as the reinforcement work was not completed. This delay not only impacted the workforce responsible for the shuttering, but also had a substantial impact on the construction slab cycle. The graph shown below, we can see that in 6 weeks PPC tracking, in which the 3 weeks tracking was done for the conventional, 3 weeks tracking was done for the LPS. In conventional, we can say the PPC is reducing, but after the implementation of the LPS on site, the PPC is increasing or it is constant. A major reasons for variance which was observed is due to the predecessor activities. The inference which we have is that in traditional tracking, on average, there of 79% of PPC was observed, while compared to that, the PPC comes around 87.2% during the LPS implementation of period. Then coming to the design PPC tracking, in which we can say in the first week that due to the unavailability of drawings, the PPC is 50%, but afterwards the PPC is increased due to the uh, meets and presentation. And afterwards of in 10th week, there is a decrease in productivity after the mid jury due to the figuring out what those further process should be followed. And in the 13th week, there is a decline of 57.89 percentage due to the health issues. And afterwards, we have achieved 100% PPC at the end of the semester. The major reasons for variance observed were due to the unavailability of drawings, then software skill gaps, designing, uh, design issue, predecessor activity, dependency on the other model, uh, and etc. For the BIM execution plan, the peoples which were involved in the BIM execution plan were client, structural consultant, architect, MEPF consultant, BIM coordinator. While the process which was followed in BIM execution plan was kickoff meeting, defining goals for BIM implementation, figuring out BIM uses, common data environment, standards, processes, etc. Then the tools which were used were Plannerly, Google Meet, Microsoft Office. The learnings of PEP is it provided an overview of the processes and the flow that each stakeholder must follow. In our case, the BEP helped to make the process more standardized by keeping all the stakeholders aware of the activity happening among the group. In LOD versus all the stakeholders were involved. The scope process which were followed was the scope identification for the studio, formulating the detail and milestone schedule, defining model element authority, making look ahead plan, and making LOD versus LOS. The tools involved in it were Microsoft Office, Excel, Google Meet, and MSP. The learnings from which we got from LOD versus LOS that it made our workflow streamlined. It was observed that this flow was hindered due to the constraint like unavailability of drawings and lack of understanding. This had a significant impact on following activities that were planned. Then the clash detection and coordination, in which also all the stakeholders were involved, in which the conducting different types of quality checks was done, conducting clash tests on software, clash coordination called identification of types of errors, RFI processes, calculation of cost of rework. The tools which were involved in it were Revit, Navisworks, Google Meet, and Excel. The learnings which we got is early identification of errors could have a significant savings in cost and time during execution. The clash detection through software becomes much faster compared to the traditional method of overlapping 2D drawings. Also, there are a few errors that could be only identified in 3D models and could not be evident in 2D drawings. Then afterwards, the last is LPS implementation, in which also the structural consider architect, contractor, beam and site person and last planners are involved. The process which were followed is look ahead planning, constant mapping, formulation of weekly work plans, tracking of actual work done at site, and identification of reasons of variance was done. The tools involved in it were Visilean, MSP, and Excel. The interaction learnings is the interaction with the last planner give an understanding of real issues at site, and LPS implementation helps the site personnel to plan the coming activity in a realistic scenario. And thus, here I conclude my portfolio presentation. Thank you.